bliss of the self, which is different from the bliss of mental quiescence, in other words, a calm mind, and the bliss of deep sleep. But what is the condition of a samsari? Reply. Samsaris are born and die again and again, and inhabit innumerable bodies owing to their righteous or unrighteous deeds. Why think about them? Now, a proper teacher will try to help them, only if they're open to the truth. If they are still devoted to external objects, a suitable kind of worship can be prescribed for them. Everybody's got a samsari in them, okay? Don't think we're talking about samsaris. The samsari's right here in me, okay? We're talking to the samsari in you, right? So, if they're still devoted to external objects, that means if you still think there's something out there in the world, a suitable kind of worship or ritual can be prescribed for them. We prescribe karma yoga. If, on the other hand, they have a desire to know the truth, even though they are spiritually dull, they can approach a proper teacher and subject their minds to the teaching of Vedanta. First, they have to understand that the joy they seek is not in objects. It's not for the sake of the husband that the wife loves the husband. Remember, don't tell him. But for her own sake, and vice versa. It doesn't fly to say, I love you for me. So if you got in a relationship, don't tell them. Keep your mouth shut. I love you for you. And then it'll work very nicely. Thus, even in the mutual love between husband and wife, one is motivated by selfish desire for happiness. A child kissed by its father may cry when it's prickled by his bristly beard. But the father goes on kissing the child for the father's sake. My dad used to do that. I hated that. But yeah, he just kept right on doing it. He didn't care. I was squawking, my brother and I were squawking. He just keeps right on doing it. Wealth and gems have no likes or dislike, but their owner looks on them, after them, with love and care for his own sake. The merchant forces his unwilling bullock to carry a load. Well, you see a lot of that around here, don't you? He loves the bullock for his sake, not for the sake of the bullock. There are many examples in Scripture to convince the worldly that the love they seek is only in themselves, because we're always pretending that we love the object, right? You always think you love, you say, I heart my house, I heart my car, I heart my dog, I heart my children. No, you don't. You heart yourself. That's the fact. Why? Because there's only yourself. There's nobody else. What you heart in them is you. Isn't it? You don't fall in love with somebody else. You always only fall in love with yourself. But Maya makes you think that you're falling in love with the object. And you think the object is what you love. You don't. You love you. It's not going to make a lot of... we're going to write a relationship book, you know, but we'll keep that out. Because it won't sell, will it? Yeah, Surya.
So what happens when you don't like somebody?
For the sake of yourself, you don't like them. It's not that you dislike them. It pleases you to dislike them. Yeah, it makes you happy to dislike them, that's why. Everything's done for the sake of yourself. All these do-gooders, man, you know, they think they're wonderful because they're making a difference and helping. Huh? Even if you're not helping, you're helping because it's all for your own sake. A do-gooder only helps people because he or she pleases, it pleases him or her to do it. If you tell a do-gooder not to help people, they'll go right ahead helping people. Why? Because it makes them feel good to think they're helping. Everything is just for me, because there's only me. That's what non-duality means. Huh? There's only me. So go ahead and love all the objects, but know they're yourself that you love. And if it's a non-dual reality, it can't be any other way, can it? This is why you can worship anything, because everything is just you. That's the beauty of India. That's what they call what polytheism they call it. You can worship anything. A tree, they worship trees here, and they worship. Yeah, tomorrow I think is Cow Pongal. Oh, that was today? Yeah, today's Cow Pongal. Now, why the hell are they worshiping the cows? Because cows are symbols of the self. Cows are the self. They're a symbol of the self if you can't understand, or they just are the self. But Yanni would say, oh, I'm just worshiping myself, puts a tilak on the cow, garlands the cow. He's worshiping his or herself. Can only be that way if reality's non-dual. There's no other possibility. Yes, Lawrence.
Since we're talking about relationships, so if an aware, an enlightened person enters a relationship, there's no reason an enlightened person would ever end that relationship.
Or begin it. They wouldn't begin it, or they wouldn't end it. They just see Ishvara brought themselves to themselves, and when that self went, that object went away, he wouldn't change anything.
So what about two enlightened people?
Same. The beauty of it, my wife and I both know who we are. We got a great relationship. Because, why? What's the beauty of it? Not only that we see ourselves in each other, but I take care of my needs with reference to the self, and she takes care of her needs with reference to the self. And therefore, I'm not responsible for looking after her needs, and she's not responsible for looking after my needs, so we have a lot of fun. Because, you don't want a needy person clinging on you that you have to, what? You have to satisfy their needs every 5 minutes, do you? That's a pain. You might as well have a baby or a dog or a... I don't even want a plant. Because I don't want to have to water it. I don't even want to water a plant. Why? That's too much work. I got my own, I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to. Understand? You want a good relationship, then what? Take all the joy from here. Work out whatever your desires are with reference to the knowledge and let the desires go. Know that that person can fulfill you. Don't expect them to fulfill you, and enjoy their company. Simple. It's hard to do because we don't go into relationships, why? For freedom. What do you go into relationships for? For attachment. You want an object, and you want to be attached to an object that you think will what? Take care of your needs. You don't go to a relationship for freedom. Well, never mind. You don't want to hear about my troubles. Huh? What type of love do the scriptures say is felt for the self? Is it the passionate attachment which is felt toward the wife? The faith experienced to sacrifice or rituals? The devotion for God and the teacher? Or is it the desire one feels for something one does not possess? What kind of love is this bhakti? This is the topic of bhakti, or love. Implied. The real love of the self is that which, in the absence of rajasic and tamasic emotions, reveals itself when the mind is sattvic. It is different from desire because it exists when desire is present or absent. Oh, nice, huh? Now, that may be, but food and drink, for example, are all objects of love because they bring happiness. If you are arguing that the self is a means of happiness like food and drink, then please ask yourself, who enjoys the happiness? Both the subject and the object cannot be the enjoyer. Love for a means to happiness is temporary love, because it disappears when the object, which is a means, not an end, invokes the love that is the self. But the love for the self is infinite. Love for an object always changes because a single object can only deliver happiness for a limited period of time. When a new object is required to produce happiness. But the self is not an object, and its nature is love. Parama, prema, swarupaha. Parama means limitless. Prema means non-desire-oriented love, non-object-oriented love. Swarupa means it's the nature. The nature of that kind of love is not what? Desire. There's no desire in it. It's appreciation and recognition of the self. It's understanding or appreciation or recognition. Even though it cannot be accepted or rejected, the self may regard it as an object of indifference, like a piece of straw. No, because it is the very self of the person who regards it with indifference. In other words, it pleases me to regard it with indifference. Means you're always loving something, and that something you're loving is always you. Even if it's what? The idea that I don't have love. It pleases me to think that nobody loves me. This is one of the people that are whining and complaining and saying, I'm suffering, nobody loves me. They actually love it. What? They love the idea that they're suffering and nobody loves them. It validates them, gives them identity. And they need an identity. It pleases them to feel unloved. There's love behind everything. Why? Because love is the nature of the self, and the self is non-dual. So all you have to do is look for the what? The love in the pain, look for the love in the pleasure, look for the love behind everything, in everything. It's in everything, the good stuff and the bad stuff. No other possibility. People begin to hate the self when they are displeased or angry or want to die. Reply, this is not so. When they desire to die, it is the desire to be free of suffering, not to get rid of the self. You want to die, why? Because you love yourself and you hate to suffer. Right? The self, under the spell of ignorance, hates the body because it produces pain, which is contrary to the nature of the self, which is parama prema swarupa, it's fullness, it's love. One hates because it pleases one to hate. In any case, hating an object is not a problem because objects are insentient and they don't feel the hate. So you can go right ahead and hate all you want. Good, go right ahead. Doesn't bother the objects at all. If it makes you feel good to hate, just get right on with it. Boy, that's pretty radical, isn't it? Huh? You know, why are we telling this? Well, first of all, because it's true. And second of all, that you've got negative stuff. And you don't want to make a problem out of it, do you? You don't want to get a complex because I'm spiritual and I shouldn't have bad thoughts. Right? Because they tell you you're not supposed to have any bad thoughts. Are you? If you don't like something or you're mean or something, then you're not spiritual. And then I start feeling guilty. Oh my God, I'm not spiritual. How am I going to get, what am I going to do? I've got to be pure and good. I was reading in this toilet somewhere, there was this woman, she was a Buddhist, and she had a thing by the Dalai Lama. And the whole thing was telling you, be good, be a good little person. Huh? That was the whole thing. It was all beautiful. You just wanted to, oh, eat it up. It was so beautiful, but it was so awful. Huh? Because the implied meaning of every one of those statements was, it's wrong to feel this way. And you're going to feel this way, what? And why? Because ignorance is operating. And it's not, you didn't solicit your ignorance. You didn't make yourself ignorant. You didn't create Rajas and Tamas, and you didn't veil the self from yourself. You didn't hide your beauty and bliss from yourself. You didn't do that. So whatever kind of negative stuff comes out of there, it's not your fault. And by trying to be good, all you do is what? You don't stop being bad. You just cover up the badness with a layer of goodness on top. A layer of smarmy sweetness and the bliss smile and the I love you, I love you. That's all that happens. So you express yourself, feel it, honestly, and know that you're doing it what to please yourself, out of love for yourself. You're getting rid of this stuff. Try not to hurt other people, obviously. But, you can't help some of this. Even the self is not injured by hate because it's the witness of the hate. All objects are desired for the sake of the self. All actions are undertaken for the sake of the self. Of all objects of love, the self is the dearest. A man's son is dearer to him than his son's friends. May I never perish, may I always exist, is the desire seen in all. So love for the self is obvious. This is why you should be grateful. Huh? This is why gratitude is the essence of spirituality. Because you don't want to die because you've been given this amazing life. Huh? Think about it. Infinite love is always reserved for the self. For whatever is related to it, various degrees of love apply. Related objects are either ignored or hated. Straw lying on the road is disregarded, whereas tigers and snakes are hated. So, objects are loved dearly, loved dearly, disregarded, or hated. The type of love a person has for an object depends on the effect the object has on what he or she thinks is the self. When a tiger confronts a man, it's hated. When it's away, it's disregarded. And when it's been tamed and made friendly, it causes joy. Huh? Even means what? It's not in the object. Nothing's in the object. The objects are, as Buddha said, have no self-nature. The objects are devoid of meaning. There is no meaning in any object. It's all put there according to what? Who I am. What my awareness is shining through. Awareness is shining through the causal body. If my causal body is pure, I'm going to see all the objects as what? As myself. If it's not, not. Now, what's the connection between awareness and love? People have that sometimes say, they say, oh, Vedanta, it's all about knowledge and awareness. Where's the love? Where's the love? That's what they say. Raji, you don't have any love. You're just a big intellectual. You're just teaching scripture. Where's your love? And you're taking the piss out of those neos. It must mean you don't love them. No, look. Everything is awareness. Love is willing attention. What is my attention? In other words, what you willingly pay attention to, you love, isn't it? I heart my kid. In our case, we heart knowledge. So we're what? We love knowledge, so we're studying the scripture. We're paying attention to the scripture. We're paying attention to these words. Why? Because we love them. In other words, our love is just awareness directed to an object. That's all. Isn't it? That's all it is. So if you're not paying attention to that thing, then you don't love it. But you don't love it. Why? Because it pleases you. In other words, you love not loving it. I mean, it's for your own sake that you don't love it. It's for, yeah, right. So it's for your own sake that you don't love it. And it's for your own sake that you do. We got funny ideas about love. This is why the love we're talking about here is free of desire. Thomas and Rogers. It's free of those things. Huh? It's just willing, pure awareness, focused through an object, through a subtle body to the object. I like sex. Why? What is it? It's just awareness focused toward this activity. That's all, on this activity. That's all it is. It's just awareness. Nothing. Our idea is, oh no, love's this kind of craving experience and all that excitement and all that sort of thing. Oh, it's not love. That's just desire. I want to discriminate. About what? Desire from attention, from willing attention, from love. What? I need to discriminate desire from willing attention, from love. Your attention naturally flows toward objects, doesn't it? You're not actually putting your attention on objects. Your vasanas are directing your attention to objects and away from other objects. Pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti means my attention is going toward this particular object. Nivritti means my attention goes away from it. What is that attention about what? Awareness operating through my vasanas. When Tamas and Rajas are there, then it turns in, this attention turns into desire, craving, and aversion. And then I have all this emotional problems. If you want to free, if you want to free yourself of that, then purify the Rajas and Tamas, which is the whole purpose of Vedanta sadhana. The sadhana of Vedanta is what? Purifying the relative proportion, altering the relative proportions of Rajas and Tamas and Sattva by what? Purifying basically Rajas and Tamas and creating a sattvic mind. I'm going to retain a certain amount of Rajas for motivation, a certain amount of Tamas so I can sleep, but the rest of it, my mind should be sattvic. And then my love flows naturally, without obstruction, toward what? Whatever object is directed to by awareness. And it's always going to come back to awareness because the self just is here loving itself all the time. When the impediments are there, it goes toward temporary objects, and then problems are there. If it's going toward temporary objects, fine. Know that it's just what? Going toward objects, and it's actually coming back to me, and then the problem is solved. Even though no thing invokes primary or secondary love by itself, the type of love depends upon whether the vasanas cause the object to be seen in a favorable or unfavorable light, or in neither a favorable or an unfavorable light. In other words, the vasanas are coloring awareness. The popular view is that the self is the dearest, the objects related to it are dear, and the rest are either disregarded or hated. This is also the opinion of the scripture. Good, huh? Yeah, Vedanta is just common sense logic. There's nothing mystical about it. There's nothing spiritual about it, at all. It's just pure common sense logic. Just the logic of existence. That's all we're doing. We're just telling you how reality is. If you, in fact, you don't know it. And people always say, geez, that's amazing. I already knew that. And you do. Everything here you already know. I'm not telling you anything new. This is already known by everybody. Just somehow it's incompletely known. Remember that verse in the first chapter? It said it's incompletely known. It's not completely known. I do know it, but I don't know it. Huh? And so we need this method to what? Remove the ignorance so that it is completely or fully known. But it's always been known. It's never a discovery. It's always a rediscovery of who I am, of what I know. Always. That's why it makes so much sense. Well, you can't really argue with it when you hear it. It seems like it's new, but it's not new at all. Elsewhere, too, the scriptures declare, know this self is the dearest, which is closer than one's offspring, wealth, and so forth. Through the eye of discrimination developed by Scripture, it becomes clear that the witness awareness is the real self. Discrimination means separating the five sheaths from the inner essence awareness. We know that. The essence of an individual is self-luminous awareness, the witness of the presence and absence of the waking, dream, and deep sleep states. The various objects of enjoyment, from life on down to wealth, are objects of varying degrees of love according to their proximity to the self, according to how much your vasanas cause you to value them. A son is dearer than wealth. The body is dearer than the sun. The sense organs are dearer than the body. Life and mind dearer than the sense organs, and the self dearer than your life and your mind. There it is. It's all laid out. The whole chart, all in one. Because without what? Without the senses, your body's no good, is it? And without the mind, your senses are no good. And without the pranas, life, the mind's no good. And without the self, there's no pranas and no mind. So the self is always the dearest thing. In Scripture, there's a dialogue between a wise and a dull-witted man illustrating the idea that the self is the dearest of the all. The dearest of all. And now, let's see, what does it say? A wise person, does it give that? Does it tell that here? I think I must have chopped that out.
No,
Huh?
it's here.
Is it here? A wise person knows that the witness awareness is dearer than any object. Because a dull-witted person believes that his or her loved ones and other objects are dearer than the witness awareness, he or she enjoys the happiness caused by these objects. How would you think the joy is coming from your kids and your wife and your house and your job and all that? Simply because you don't know that it's just coming from you. So you remain attached to those objects. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have a wife and the kids and a job and that sort of thing. You definitely can. In fact, it's best to have a wife and the kids and a job and thing. You just won't think they're what? Essential for my happiness. Think of how nice that would be for them. And for you. Why? Because you don't have any attachment anymore. The love is great. The love just flows naturally, but I don't need you. I love you, but I don't have to live with you. I love you, but I don't need you. That's freedom. It is ignorance to assert that something other than self is the object of greatest love. Scripture says, the thing dearest to you makes you weep. That's why some people cry when they realize the self, or when they hear about the self. They weep. Happens often. Well, you guys are a bunch of cold-hearted bastards. But I often have people break down and weep when they understand who they are. It's so beautiful. It's just so wonderful. An analysis of this statement should lead to the conclusion that it's wrong to conclude that something other than self is dearest to you. See, we got to take the love out of the objects, guys. Huh? Just admit it. All you have to do is admit it, and then what? You're just not going to. You're going to stop craving objects. You're just going to stop asking people to give you love. If you're going around, if you're needy and you're going around asking people to give you love, then what? This is what you need to contemplate. If you contemplate that, you'll have good relationships. You people who, so many spiritual people, I mean, if you go to like most of these satsangs, it's all about the sangha and not the sat. Huh? Isn't it? Yeah, it's about the energy. It's all about the huggy, warm, fuzzy, kissy feeling. I love Muji. I heart Muji and all the Muji people. You know, huh? What's the problem there? They're going for the sangha. They're going for the love in the object rather than what? Seeing that it's the sat, which is me. What? The love is my nature. How good it is to be free of that. That need to have a group or a community or a sangha or a family or something to feel, to get the love. No, there's nothing wrong with it. And there's not, I mean, it's not bad, but it's no freedom involved. Whereas the only reason I have those, yeah, and if you want, if you got them, then at least see them as symbols of the self and know that what? They invoke the love in you. And by seeing or touching those people that you love, then what? You're invoking your own love. Not that the love's coming from the Muji and the Sangha and all that sort of stuff. You know, Muji loves himself first. Right? Can't be any different. And I love Muji because I love myself first. Understand? Huh? It's not like Muji's giving up everything to give his love to you. Muji does that because it pleases him to give his love to you. It makes him happy to love you. And, you know, he's got a lot of love, so fair enough, a lot of people. A person who remains convinced that happiness is object-dependent and who does not give up his view due to sheer obstinacy or hostility to the truth sinks into spiritual darkness and suffers the pain of innumerable births. Now, innumerable births means you just feel depressed a lot. You just feel depressed and angry. It doesn't mean you're reborn again later on. We're not defining birth in that way. We're just saying what? Then the mind just goes into depression and you feel unhappy. That's all. You're born into or reborn to the feeling of being lonely and incomplete and miserable and so forth. The knower of awareness is awareness, and like Ishvara, like, point, not is Ishvara, but like Ishvara, whatever he or she says will come to pass for his or her disciples or others. Whoa, that's pretty cool. Why is that? Because it's just acting out Ishvara's will because he doesn't want anything for his or herself. So then you become a vehicle for the desires of others, and what? You serve other people.
That's real service.
Huh?
That's real service as opposed to...
Pardon?
So that's the distinction between real service as opposed to obligatory...
Yeah, that's real service. You got what does a realized person have to gain? Nothing. Yet they're constantly acting. Huh? And the desires of others come through them, and their desires are fulfilled through them, through him or her. Krishna says that in the Gita. I remember that happened when I discovered that when I was with my guru. It was just the most amazing thing. I realized I had power over my guru. But my desire was so strong. And he said to me, he said, I never met anybody, and he was a great guru and had many enlightened disciples. He said, I never met anybody who had such strong desire as you do. And I could feel it controlling him. Why did he allow it to control him? And why did he serve me like that? Because he knew it was Ishwara's desire. So he was like Ishwara. I felt that it was Ishwara. I felt that my guru was God, was Ishwara. Think about it. It's very cool how it works. He who contemplates the witness self as the dearest of all objects will find that the self never suffers change. We've already discussed that. Limitless means I'm not modified by experience. But the self is the most beloved. Because the self is the most beloved, it is the source of infinite joy. Wherever there is greater love, there is greater bliss. Love being willing attention. And that just what? Generates bliss, bliss, bliss on top of itself. That's why you see these people like Amachi. Huh? Can you imagine that person? It's not a person, it's Ishwara. Huh? And the bliss just keeps growing and growing and growing. The love just keeps growing and growing and growing. Huh? There's no obstructions in it anymore. The more you give, the more you get.